to it right now. Peace. Welcome back. Secret House Against. Very excited for today's episode. Secret House Against the World is a Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversation channel. Largely a lot of hip-hop discussions and reviews about new upcoming albums. And today, Jed and I have got together because we kind of missed last weekend and last Wednesday. We were going to record, but we both got kind of busy, and then the weather sucks. Well, the weather's great.
Weather's cool.
I'm just not enjoying it myself. But yes, the new Fatboi Sharif and Steel Tip Dub album is called Decay. 17 songs, 38 minutes. It dropped on July 21st and through Backwoodz Studios, which is perhaps the illest fucking
insane run
right now.
A lot of insane runs going on this
True
record because Sharif's been on an insane run, Steel Tip Dub's been on an insane run, Backwoodz are on an insane run.
Yeah, that Backwoodz camp, man, it's like everything that they put out. Like if they were more into branding, like shouting Backwoodz and going boom, 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 boom on their releases, they might be bigger than Griselda because the quality output is just there. And
this is the avant-garde label for your weird hip-hop.
Yeah, I hate to frame it that way, but it definitely sits in a certain aspect of the general hip hop culture. True hip hop, real hip hop.
Right.
But yeah, this album, we usually talk about how we know these artists, but I think that longtime listeners and watchers of the show will know that we are fans of Fatboi Sharif. Last year, we reviewed, was it last year?
Earlier this year. Oh, wait, which one? Planet Unfaithful? Well, that was earlier this year, beginning of this year.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah. Planet Unfaithful, him and Roper Williams dropped another project, and so we know that. We know Steel Tip Dub. We did the structural dynamics of flow with Alaska, so we are fans of both of them, big fans. And actually, we were kind of lucky on this one because we've got this album a little bit early. Fatboi Sharif reached out to us and like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, here comes a new album, check it out. And we were very excited. I've listened to this album so many times.
Yeah.
Since before it dropped.
Few weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
I did actually realize the other day, I believe I said in the Planet Unfaithful review that the first time I'd heard Fatboi Sharif was on the More Mother. I think that's probably what I said. I realized the other day that's not actually the case. There's a pretty underground but extremely prolific MC that I've been following for a long time named Darko the Super from Philadelphia. And he'd gotten into like some kind of beef with Hip Hop DX and put out a song called like Hip Hop DX Bad, Darko the Super Good or something like that. And I wasn't crazy about his rapping, but his production alias Doc Hella is fucking insane. Like some of his, his sampling, the way he freaks it, his beats are dope as shit. And he has a few features, like a few collaborations with Fatboi Sharif circa 3 years ago.
Oh, tight.
And I'd heard some of those before. And yeah, he's dope.
Okay. Yeah, I know Fatboi Sharif from I think it was the homies over at Dabod Rap Pod that had a conversation with him, and we're talking about Gandhi Loves Children.
Yeah.
For some reason I was just kind of like, I don't know how I didn't hear what is going on with this rap music. I don't know how I didn't hear about Fatboi Sharif before that, but I'm quite happy to know him now.
For sure.
Hold on, let me just put on beats while I'm fucking around. Okay. Yeah, so we've been listening to this for a while, and just to get into the album, I suppose, let's get right into it.
Excellent, as always, doesn't miss. But this is very interesting to me as, I suppose, the first, like, it's the longest thing that he's put out.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most album-like of them all. He's had other projects that have sat around half an hour. Maybe like more mixtapey or usually with one producer as well. It's just something that seems to be a running theme, is usually you have one producer on the record, as we do here. But Steel Tip Dub's contribution to this piece, to me, it really is the complete realization of Fatboi Sharif as an album artist.
Yeah. This definitely, to me, like, I like most of his work. To a large degree, I really enjoy it. But this album kind of feels like fully realized Fatboi Sharif, magnum opus thus far, high watermark Fatboi Sharif. And the way that his style and Steel Tip Dub style, they work together so well on this.
Surprisingly so.
Surprisingly well. I mean, like, I don't even know if it's surprisingly.
Steel Tip Dub is incredibly flexible, and you can't just like give Fatboi Sharif like a bunch of beats and just be like, oh, here you go, here's a fucking static selector beat, like do you, and I'm sure he'd rap over it, I'm sure he'd kill it, but like when you're making a Fatboi Sharif album, you have to really consider how his voice and his delivery and the mood that he sets is going to kind of come together to create the final piece. And Steel Tip Dub, obviously very good at making a variety of beats, variety of sounds, you know, a lot of range, a lot of flexibility. But something that Steel Tip Dub brings to this record that I really appreciate is the fact that I wouldn't call it accessible per se, because it's avant-garde, it's weird, but it's a little more melodic than, you know, Preaching in Havana or Planet Unfaithful or Gandhi Loves Children. The songs feel a bit more formed as opposed to just kind of like a loop coming in and Sharif kind of, you know, being very present on the track. I don't even like saying he's like flowing over the tracks, because he's not like it's not rapping. It's not rippity rap shit, right?
I think he's like a horn player style
like
rapper,
right, exactly.
Because his voice, the vocal inflections, the way that he uses his voice as instrument. Now his timing is impeccable.
Yes.
But we'll get more into that. But I do like what you're saying about the production on this album. You know, Steel Tip Dub has released Structural Dynamics of Flow, the trumpets, obviously Be Drinking with Andrew, House of Disorder with No Such from New Kingdom, All the Weights Feathers Don't Have, and now this, and that's just this year. It's a prolific output, but when you listen to the production on this, the moods he creates, there's tons of like these subtly intricate moments about the beats. They seem a little bit kind of like surface level simple, but when you start to listen to the way he's fine tuning, adding things, there's subtle crescendos that you don't even really notice, a usage of strange drum kits and strange variety of sounds, but all of them have this cohesion and approach that kind of really ties the whole thing together. It's unusual, it's strange.
Even when it's dissonant, there's a lot of dissonance on this record, but even
Cacophony.
when it's dissonant and it's weird, generally the sounds are like very well considered, you know, even if like tonally, even if in terms of the actual melodic or chords they're dissonant, like texturally they'll fit in very well, or they'll be introduced in a very like careful and measured way that as like a complete sound, you know, it fits, it works like basically every time for me.
He also does really well, like there's an aspect of Fatboi Sharif that is a little bit overwhelming, just in the kind of themes, the way he raps, his voice is so bombastic, and there's also a little bit an overwhelming aspect of the way that Steel Tip Dub approaches these beats. But Steel Tip Dub does a really good job on allowing certain parts to kind of breathe. At the end of his most of these songs doesn't end like beats done, move on to the next one. They kind of it'll be, you know, Fatboi Sharif's voice goes away and you'll hear more building and realize all of these little parts of the songs that were kind of in the background that you didn't notice, and he'll allow a flourish at the end, and then it'll kind of disappear and meld right into the next track with perhaps like a some type of odd media sample that kind of adds and brings the album together. There's 17 songs on this, right? And one of them is like a minute long interlude, which also gives the album time to breathe. It's also a different kind of vibe than the rest of the beats. There's weird industrial sounding beats on here, guitar, you know, like loop pedal type of
instrumentation,
different. Man, Steel Tip Dub really puts his whole fucking foot into this shit, and it's like all of his beats are really dope. But of all of the projects that I've listened to this year, this one does seem a little bit like differently fine-tuned, as almost like very conscious effort to meet Fatboi Sharif's vocal style for this fucking vibe. Can we get into Fatboi Sharif's style a little bit on this?
Yeah.
Man,
like I said, he's a presence on these tracks.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like, yo, let me rap. I'm a rap. Like let me jump on the mic. It's very like, Fatboi Sharif feels like a mini boss in a video game. Like, you know, like you'll like walk into a room, you're like aiming your gun around, and then just like there's no like big crescendo build up or anything like that. It's just like, oh fuck, he's here.
Yeah.
He's like an optional boss in a Dark Souls game.
He's man, his presence on beats and tracks is really interesting to me. And like I was saying, like in the past, one thing that I've said, and I picked this up from an old homie back in the day, is like there's a few styles of rappers, right? There's rappers who rap like drummers, and there's rappers who rap like horn players. And the best MCs, in my estimation, are the ones that do it both. When I listen to Fatboi Sharif, and this is not even getting to the type of like content that he's actually talking about, this is more just stylistically, he is so precise with the timing, but he also has like this vocal inflection where he kind of sings songs his way through things. And also the bar timing just seems a little off. It's almost like the way he sings shit, it's almost like I don't know how to describe it in a poetic terms, but like a limerick. You know how it's like sing-songy, then extra long sing-songy, and then back together. He does that so often on this album. It makes it so I didn't write down any of the lyrics for this really, because there's no way that I'm doing it justice by trying to recite them. Now, if it was playing and I sung along, you might be like, all right, that's fine. But there's just kind of an uncanny, and I mean that in every sense of the word, like a weird, strange uniqueness to Fatboi Sharif, his just style before you even get to the content that makes him I'm not going to say like this is like, oh, here goes some really good music that people can enjoy and listen to. This is like art house, like really good, interesting, tremendously crafted and well thought out, more than just jam this type of music.
Yeah, because in a vacuum, like the lyrics, you know, you would easily like say, oh, it's like a horrorcore record or something, right? You've got a lot of very
the simple
brutal,
kind of,
very brutal, like dark, brooding, bloody kind of imagery, very fleshy, you know, interplay of sex and violence that's present throughout the record, and that just doesn't do it any justice. That doesn't really do what the way, you know, the style is so instrumental to actually, you know, seeing how fucking dope this is, basically.
You know, like for me, to get kind of into some of the themes and the content he talks about, like first off, the album is called Decay, and I think that one of the critiques that I had of Planet Unfaithful, I was like, what is it all about? Like, what is it? Like, were there deeper themes here that I wasn't picking up on? Is there something to be said about matrimony, relationships, in time and space, or like direction we're going? With this album, I feel like I still don't know what it all means. From track to track, from bar to bar, I still don't get what it all means. But there's an overarching motif and aesthetic, and when you take like this, his approach to the lyrics, there is kind of like a theme. There's a lot of a kind of kaleidoscope, psychedelic aspect to the way that he approaches rhymes. It's extremely, you could say poetic, because it's not on the nose. He's rarely like, unless he's saying like, you know, protect black women, the rest of the things are like, what does it all mean? Like Nazi needle marks? Like what does it all mean? And he gets into this kind of spiraling of the occult, Gnostic, psychedelia, under late stage capitalism,
paranoia,
and, you know, mystery school, hidden knowledge. He really does kind of remind me of some of the in the early 2000s. There was a bunch of artists who were very much into, like, you know, conspiratorial, hidden history, and this is like, you know, 5%er, New Wabian, also like Robert Anton Wilson. Like, we're all in conspiracy theory shit, and coupled with, you know, your Terrence McKenna psychedelic hallucinogens as a form of consciousness expanding, and the hidden history of it all. He kind of gets into that shit. It reminds me of like an early Noah 2023, or even like Orko and Big Just at that time. But it's not really like, here goes some psychedelic rap, or here goes some conspiratorial rap. He weaves together all of these themes in a kind of wonderful tapestry of what the fuck is going on. The way that him and Steel Tip Dove come together, they created this really strange, like extrasensory experience for me, like this strange world. It almost feels like whenever I listen to it with the headphones on, I feel like I'm stepping into that boss room. I'm stepping into this experience that's like, what does it mean? Like Brandon Lee, like we know, like the song before that is like, you know, East Hollywood, your designer drugs. And it's this vibe of like drugged out, but also strange. Brandon Lee, like, what does it mean? We all know he, you know, son of Bruce Lee, famously died. Like, what are the themes that are going on? And I think that it is one of those, like, catch the motif here. Like, there's like a sickness or a decay.
Yes,
like, you know, the pieces are, you see all these pieces, but there's also this, towards the end of the album, this deeply kind of Gnostic, hidden religious aspect of things. He does, like, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but it's kind of incredible to me. This is a very he's become like one of my favorite, more psychedelic type of artists. I'm kind of like, yo, I'm not smart enough, or I'm just not privy enough to look into a mind as like deranged or as genius as Fatboi Sharif's. But whenever I listen to it, I'm catching new things. One of the reasons I didn't write down lyrics too, I was like, what is that word? Like, I'm not sure exactly what
Sometimes,
he's saying with this.
It's difficult to make out. And I can see that being like an issue. You know, I think if Spade was here, that's something he would probably take issue with, like not being able to understand what is being said on every track. Because I missed a lot of it. I'm already someone who, like, people will tell me something, I'm like, huh? Like, they said again, and I'm like, and like they say it one more time, and I'm just like, yeah, and I don't know what they said. So I definitely had a lot of moments on this record of like, oh, well, what's he, you know, even on the very basic level, what is he talking about? But I think it's also, you know, very obvious, like a stylistic choice, that there are points in the kind of broader psychedelic and decaying elements of the record that sometimes you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's a Fear and Loathing Las Vegas. Like, the world that you're in is not necessarily the one that you're going to understand, you know? Like, some of the lines are easier to pick out, like Christopher Dorner Hotel Room Manifesto. But even at the end of Prisoner of Jesus, which I love, one of my favorite songs on the album, he says, like, argue if deception is real with Rabbi Cohen. And it's like the end, when I first heard it, I was like, is he saying perception? Is he saying deception? And like, me as a person that really likes words and how you can, you know, there's through, and through, like, which one of this is supposed to be, like, a lot of it gets to that point where I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what's being said here, but I'm getting something out of it. I do really wish that we were like privy to the lyrics. Like, more recently, I feel like I'm spoiled by the fact that some artists put their lyrics out and shit. But man, yeah, I would have liked to have lyrics, just because, like, I feel like there's a dense thing happening here that I might be able to, like, pull more out if I could read the written words. But that's also one of the things that brings me back to listening to it over and over, that causes me to hit that scroll bar and like, what was that bar? Like, what is that? Communicating with dolphins? Like, I don't get everything, but man, there's and on top of that, because he's so fucking dope at just rapping, I get these like earworms. I'll just wake up with.
I told you, man. I was on the train to work this morning. I'm still in my work shirt. Like, I was on the train to work. Train was fucking packed. There was, you know, probably 200 people packed into this carriage, and all I can hear in my head is just, my family. My family. My family. And I'm just like, it was just stuck in my head, and I was like, it's so fucking evocative, you know, on the track, the christening in that case, like, you know, the title and the themes and everything like that. The fact that it's like, oh, it's my family. There's like a horror, you know, there's a very existential horror to it.
And that's the song where he says, like, protect black women.
Protect black women,
you know, measuring spoon techniques, you know, poison suffering, Cedar Sparks, Rose Parks, flat
he gets
waves,
off on that
Nazi needle marks. Yeah, I especially love the tracks where there's like a little bit more of like drumminess, because I think he sounds incredible over drums. But so many of these songs he gets off on. Prisoner of Jesus, that beat is crazy. Ash Wednesday, that beat is crazy. Like, he's just those untuned kind of piano crashes that are going on, and then it ends with like the whole skit of like the man that first got the tree hit by lightning. Man, this album is really something special. Yeah, fucking Phantasm. It's a great starter.
Great intro.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it primes you for what you're going to expect on the record, because it's very melodic for, you know, what we typically expect from Fatboi Sharif. Steel Tip Dove is you know, he's taking these chords and he's building them up in a way that verge on you know, beautiful, like verge on the sublime, while also having this kind of discomfort and hideousness behind them.
That's one of the things I really like about the album. Now it's fucking summer, and this is not necessarily what I would call like a summer album.
I'm not going to listen to this in the park.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you don't put this on at the function or whatever. But man, like I've just been thoroughly enjoying. Like, to me, it's kind of like reading the news and shit's like, shit's kind of bad, but like at least Fatboi Sharif is making it interesting. Like, oh man. This slow kind of churning. This is a highly visual album for me. As I listen to it, I'm just like seeing these other worlds. Like, this gives me such a different vibe than the next, you know, 16 tracks, 15 tracks.
Even the cover, like, we're looking into this like abandoned, destroyed like office. It looks like maybe like an office. But we're looking at it through some kind of like, or a school, like a classroom, but we're looking at it through some kind of like porthole. Like, I don't know, like somebody's ripped like a vent out, like a grate or something like that. And you really do get that sensation of this kind of motion into this sort of parallel world that the album is set in.
Brandon Lee, man, like, we're only recording one review today, so do you mind if we just kind of fuck around and bounce around through the album?
Yeah.
Copyright strike, kiss my ass and shit. But like, man, like, listen to
kiss my ass to the artist who gave us the album.
Yeah, well, you know, like YouTube.
Yeah, no, we're playing.
We don't. Yeah, but like,
I sold the crows in the satellite. Time flees as my eyes bleed.
and at the end of the track, there's kind of, it breathes and it kind of like just buzzes.
I saw the crows in satellite.
See, what is he saying? I saw the crows in the satellite. I sold the crows in the satellite. I sold the I'm trying to figure it out. Like,
lungs closed, wickerman, sickening oxygen. Jealous corpse light warm, descended a light storm. Wind whisper,
his variety of styles on this is something that I think needs to kind of be paid attention to, because his voice is so distinctly him. A lot, and the beats kind of have like this aesthetic value to him that is like hard to pick up on sometimes. Like, that sounds kind of samey a little bit. He really goes the fuck off on different styles. That sing-song approach that he has sometimes, man, it's so fucking good. Like, it's like, all right, let me just go to the, like, see the tracks. Oh, hold on.
Samples,
like, eyes bleed, sickening, last of a dying breed.
It is meticulous, like the things that they're doing, like even that little vocal effect at the end of Fatboi Sharif's chorus or verse, and then the way it comes into dimethyltryptamine, DMT.
DMT.
I mean, I'm telling you, he's on that shit. It's like, you know, he's like one of Terrence McKenna's fucking machine elves. in the, I said last time, like, he kind of reminds me of like the fucking caterpillar smoking hella hookah in Alice in Wonderland. It's giving you these different looks. He has such a commanding presence, man. Like, I find him to be one of the more interesting artists that is out right now. A true outlier artist who is making music that just doesn't sound like anybody else. He's there with your, you know, your Old Dirty Bastards or your Busta Rhymes. 100%. Like, there's nobody like, of course, like a Lucid has like a commanding voice and presence, and he's a spellcaster too that drops bars that are kind of even similar in content to this. But Fatboi Sharif, man, his shit is like, it just sounds like menacing. Yeah, Ash Wednesday. Listen how he just gets off on this shit. It's amazing.
Relaxing sensei, conquer, syringe drain, hockey match, offering ultra mag, MK, hash, and cannibalize, sling blade, new man spectacle, Ash Wednesday, Bari and blind leader, scripted Othello, and the last diva, entertainment fashion, leg giving off with no back end, maturity.
See, that's what I mean by that fucking horn style, like the way he just kind of, it's like a Micah 9 type of approach, but so uniquely different. Hold on, like, is there anything you want to, okay, as I said earlier, there's a lot of things that are difficult to kind of pick up on with his, like, what is the meaning. I think Sixth Floor is perhaps like the easiest song, because it's just basically like observational about this sixth floor of weird things happening. I think it might not be that at all, but it seems like that. Yeah.
A scripted land, no life face down. Spread probably, feared hobby, eye vigil, smells of the dead bodies. Mastermind is,
you know, there's no features on this album. No features on this album, which kind of, it doesn't surprise me, because this does feel like the coming out party almost for Fatboi Sharif. It almost feels like, look at this artist.
Full length, 40-minute.
You know,
Backwoodz.
His you know, his peers, his contemporaries, the people that he works with, they could have all like contributed something to this album in amazing ways. But I'm kind of glad that it's just like, you know, Sixth Floor could have really had like a really dope Billy Woods verse. You know, Prisoner of Jesus could have had like, you know, K the Eye or somebody else on this shit that's just super dope. But yeah, I like that it's just like,
it tells your own spirit never broke. Was suffering, see the sparks. Rose Parks, flies with covered Nazi.
What does it all mean? Rose Parks flag wave covered Nazi needle marks.
Dub's ability to work in, obviously you've got this like scream over the top, but like the percussion on this, you've got like, oh, it's the end of the track, but so you had like that click drum that you would expect to hear from like an early 2000s southern rap thing, and then this break that sounds like it comes from a jazz record that you might expect to hear on like a Griselda release nowadays, and he just blends it all together so well. He really
is like an amalgam artist. Like, even listen to the way that this track goes. It's like you get the first verse and then it comes in and then there's like a breathing moment. It's really beautiful.
Land, mosh pit, loud screams, ejecting deadly toxin, plugged in the stain, soul tested, mute televised, abundance of pain, hate showed in the rain.
I don't know, like, the way that their fucking minds work is just interesting to me, bro. Like, this is like Think Piece. There's a song called like Think Pieces, but now I'm not saying that this is Think Piece where it's like, oh, I've got to get serious about analyzing this. But to me, I listen to this, I'm just like, I want to like get closer to the object and kind of figure this shit out in a different way. What are your favorite? Let's go ahead and give a shout out to
Caltrops Press.
Yeah, I do you have it? Can you read it? Because I don't know if I've got it. Anyways, Caltrops Press. He reached out. He said, "What up?" And I said, "Man, I like you guys. I like what you're doing over there." I had seen the work that he did for Billy Woods' Ethiop's album, and I was like, "This guy is amazing." Great writer. You know, because of that, I wanted to kind of, I want to start highlighting more people within the underground independent hip hop community who are doing things that we like, appreciate, and feel are kind of on a similar wavelength of what we want to achieve. And Caltrops Press, I asked him, give me an ad read type of thing, and we've got it. So, would you mind reading that, Jet?
So Caltrops Press is writing about rap music, as in Public Enemy music and our message. an art and literature and infinite text from an insurrectionist perspective. Insurgent music journalism that isn't exactly music journalism. E. Fortson from The Next Movement podcast calls Joe's Caltrops pieces Public Enemy's Bomb Squad in written form.
Agreed.
Caltrops is your favorite rapper's favorite critic. Read everything at Caltrops Press, no spaces or anything like that, .tumblr.com. So that's
Link in the bio.
caltropspress.tumblr.com. And then reach out via direct message or on Twitter or IG at caltrops_press to cop the physical zines, of which there have been 12 issues so far. Issues have covered such distinguished artists as Billy Woods, Elucid, Fatboi Sharif, Buck 65, Alaska, Aesop Rock, Curly Castro, and more. Special issues have been dedicated to albums such as Ethiops, I Told Bessie, Church, Preaching in Havana, Fatboi Sharif again, and Maps. The price of the zines is always pay what you can, as Caltrops is for the masses. Generous donations to keep help the one-man operation going are greatly appreciated. The zines are handmade artifacts like revolutionary pamphlets of yore, folded, stapled, packaged, and addressed at a kitchen table, intimately delivered to your doorstep. Embellish your listening experience with Caltrops. Caltrops Press. Fuck the noise and get off the internet.
Pay what you can.
Pay what you can.
Revolutionary pamphlets, man, and I think that a lot of people that listen to us will go to the site, link in the bio, and just be kind of amazed.
I think there's a very deep kinship between what we're doing and what Caltrops is doing.
Yeah, man. You know, back in my anarchist days, we were handing out those pamphlets. We were putting together that radical art. You know, semiotics. We was getting with it, and man, I highly recommend it. You guys will hear more about this often because I'm going to start shouting it out. And also there might be some other artists that we get together with to share their work, but all in the spirit of community and really doing some shit that's important. And Caltrops Press is fucking great. If you read the way that he writes, it really is just right on the level. And this is not a fan. This is a person of the culture. I hate to say that, but this is an actual, hip hop human. He's got the receipts. He even knows people from back in the day that I might have been around. Like we had a nice little conversation. He's great. But yeah, check that out. Let's tell him what are our favorite tracks on this Fatboi Sharif album.
So for me, that would be the opening track, Phantasm.
I think there's a music video for that too now.
I believe so. Yeah. Think Pieces, Measuring Spoon Techniques. I mean, he goes crazy on that one.
Yeah, indeed.
And The Christening.
Okay. I've got I've got Measuring Spoon Techniques on my joint too. Prisoner of Jesus, Ash Wednesday, Designer Drugs, and I even love the interlude a lot too, to be honest with you. And Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee is like, man, he's writing his ass off on that shit. But man, Fatboi Sharif, one of the great artists of the now, and somebody that I think that you all should go support and pay attention to for more incredible art. Backwoodz Studios, also one of the fucking illest, just incredible stable of artists that are working there. So go support Fatboi Sharif. Go support Still Tipped Up. Support us if you like. Hit the like, subscribe, bell for notifications. And also we've got a Patreon. We've got our man L Spade coming back soon too. So we'll be back to Dynamic Trio. And yeah, Secret House Against.
Our family.
Listen to this old fucking hip hop beat I got going on in the background. yeah, fucking Timberland boots. Yeah, Fatboi Sharif is dark wavelength, man. Real black magic with a K. Peace.
Grouse. My family.